Hi. I'm not sure if you remember me, but my name is Casey. I started a booktube channel about 7 months ago. I uploaded 4 videos and then I stopped making videos, partly because we were so busy and also partly because I figured out that when you stop reading only for yourself, it does take some of the joy out of it. I think the last video I managed to post was in conjunction with Asian Readathon, and I had this big old long list of books that I was going to try and read for that and for other challenges, and about halfway through the month I just hated reading. It's not that I didn't want to read the books that I picked out. I think it was just the fact that I felt like I had to, and the fact that I had to do it before the end of May was super daunting. So I completely scrapped all of those plans and just started reading for myself again. I had a goal this year, a reading goal, in the year 2021 to read 60 books. I met that goal this week. I've officially read 60 books. 2 or 3 years ago, I couldn't even manage to read 12 books a year. And that was pretty discouraging to me because as a younger person, I was a huge reader. But I just couldn't find the motivation to get back into reading like I used to. In 2020, I managed to put away 60 books, and now I'm doing at least that many in 2021. I've read so many things that I normally wouldn't read, discovered new ideas and authors, and honestly, I've just had a really great year diving back into books. So, going forward, I want more of that feeling for my channel. I'm gonna try and make this more about what I'm reading right now, whatever that may be, instead of trying to do challenges and goals and reading prompts and all that hoopla, because that just didn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. I have no idea how many videos I'll be uploading per week or per month. I don't even really know what the subject matter of those videos are gonna be. It doesn't really matter. I have like 10 subscribers and 2 of those are family members. So this is obviously for me more than it is for anybody else. I'm just gonna use this as a fun little creative outlet. Since I reached my reading goal, I thought it might be fun to kind of hit the high points of my year. I dug through my 5-star reads for 2021 so far, and I picked out my absolute favorite ones to share with you. The first books I want to talk about are the Clandestine Magic Trilogy by Colleen Cowley. The books are set in present-day America, but it's an alternate universe where magic exists. Except in this world, only men seem to possess the aptitude to use magic, and because of that power imbalance, women's rights are about 100 years behind schedule. The protagonist of the story, Beatrix, is a member of a reform group that's trying to achieve greater rights for women, and the story kicks off when a guy she knew from childhood, who's now a grown-up bona fide wizard, moves back to their hometown and forces her to work for him. Like I said, it's a trilogy. I remember I really enjoyed the intrigue, like the dun 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 moments. The book is basically a woman's suffrage story, but add magic. I am a sucker for add magic stories. Seriously, if I was a literary agent and your elevator pitch was, it's Jay and Silent Bob, but add magic, I'd still probably sign you. I'm a simple gal. I respected the way the author set up the magic system. The cost of doing magic in this system was really unique. It's something I never would have thought of. All 3 books were on Kindle Unlimited and still are. If you like stories about women's suffrage, women's rights, if you like unique magic systems, I encourage you to check it out. The second book I want to talk about is Ella Minnow P, a novel in letters by Mark Dunn. This book is set in the fictional land of Nollop. It's an island just off the coast of South Carolina. It's named Nollop after this guy who came up with a sentence that uses all of the letters of the alphabet. The sentence is, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. It's believed to be the shortest possible sentence that uses all 26 letters of the alphabet, and that's why they named the island after this guy. They have placed a statue of him in the middle of their town with the sentence written on it. And one day, the letters of the sentence began falling off of the statue. Instead of just chalking this up to wear and tear over a long period of time, the town council decides that this means that Nevin Nollop, their hero, is speaking to them from beyond the grave, telling the citizens of Nollop that they must remove these letters from use. Life on this island becomes increasingly more difficult as more and more letters of the alphabet become banned from use. It makes it very difficult for them to communicate with each other, and people who do not comply with this ban are exiled from the island of Nollop on pain of death. It's a bit dramatic for letters, but you know. The heroine, Ella, she has to find a way to save the day. This book is a very short read and just absurd and fantastic. It reminded me of books like The Phantom Tollbooth. If you're looking for something unique, I definitely think you should read this one. The third book on my list is Save the Cat Writes, a novel by Jessica Brody. This book is pretty popular among established and aspiring authors. I can definitely see why. Save the Cat began as a screenwriting method. It breaks down all stories into 15 plot points or beats, and it also posits that all stories can more or less fit into 10 basic genres. Jessica Brody is an author, and she took this method for screenwriting and she developed it for writers. It really helped me gain a better understanding of story structure and conflict. If you're looking to learn more about story structure, and especially if you're looking to write your own stories, you should read this book. The next book on my list is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. If you somehow haven't heard of this book, I'm not sure how you've managed that. I'll just give you a quick rundown. The protagonist is a teenager named Star Carter. One night after she leaves a party with her good friend Khalil, they're pulled over by a police officer. And Khalil, though unarmed, is shot and killed by the police officer. And Star is the only witness to the event. Khalil's death becomes national news, and Star has to deal with the fallout. The book deals with themes of racism and police violence, and though I don't think it's been officially banned by any school district that I know of, it has been challenged in school districts in Missouri, South Carolina, and Texas. In my opinion, this book is super important. I felt that importance, that gravity every second that I was reading it, and I actually think that everyone should read it. I also read Act Normal, Memoir of a Stumbling Block by Christy Burmeister. Christy was the daughter of a Mennonite pastor, and during the summer following her senior year of high school, one of the congregants in her father's church, a middle-aged man, began stalking her. She tells that story as well as the fallout which followed her years into her adulthood. It deals with Christian purity culture and deconstruction and reconstruction of personal faith. I started this book at 11 o'clock one night, and I couldn't bring myself to stop reading it. I read the whole thing in one sitting. The next day sucked, but this book doesn't. Which leads me to the next book on my list, The Making of Biblical Womanhood, How the Subjugation of Women Became Gospel Truth by Beth Allison Barr. This book I did not finish in one sitting. If any of you did watch the last video that I posted 100 years ago, I was just starting to read this book in May, and I finished it last week in October. I didn't want to rush it because I didn't want to miss anything out of it. If you watched that last video, I shared a little bit about my history in the church and what I experienced as a female clergy member, so this book mattered a lot to me. Barr looks at the issue of biblical womanhood, which basically outlines how women should be submissive, how they should primarily be homemakers, how they shouldn't be in religious leadership, particularly not over men. She doesn't just look at it from a strict common sense reading of the Bible. She also looks at the historical context of the Bible passages that are used to mandate these roles for women. And she looks at the church and world history and provides convincing evidence that that wasn't and has never been God's design for women. I wish I had this book when I was younger because I wouldn't have lost as much sleep worrying over this issue or been as angry or as discontented as I was. It's maybe more of a niche read, but if you're at all interested in the issue of complementarity versus egalitarianism in evangelicalism, then I recommend this to you. If you're interested in poetry, I give you Fierce Fairy Tales, Poems and Stories to Stir Your Soul by Nikita Gill. I actually first became aware of Nikita Gill via Pinterest. Little pins of her poetry kept popping up in my feed, and I found myself saving almost all of them. So I finally found this book of hers through my library app, and I wish I could quote you the whole thing, but I understand that kind of thing might be frowned upon. So here is just one of my favorite quotes. She wrote, "What I am trying to say is I know that becoming kind is worth every single exhausting effort, and sometimes it takes 1,000 years. Today, I apologize to someone I owe an ocean full of amends to. Tomorrow, I will teach myself the kindness alphabet from scratch. If this is not what an apology looks like, if this is not what growth looks like, I do not know what they are." If you like fairy tales turned on their head, if you like feminist literature, you should try this. I also read the Winter Night Trilogy by Catherine Arden. I'm noticing a trend right now of authors using Slavic culture and mythology to build fantasy worlds. These books, the Winter Night Trilogy, do use Russian folk tales and mythology, but it's actually set in historical Russia. It does have magic and fantastical creatures in it, but the main conflict in the books comes from the magic and superstitions of old Russia clashing with the encroaching Orthodox Christianity in 16th century Russia. The protagonist is caught in the middle because she can see and talk to the creatures of old Russia, but her family and community expects her to live in the new one with all the expectations and social mores that come with that. I read these books in the bowels of summer, but I feel like they would make a great cozy wintertime read. If you like folk tales, if you like Russian culture and history, but you're a little over this fantasy trend, these might be for you. And finally, I fell in love with Naomi Novik this year. My best friend Caitlin lent me her book Uprooted this past spring. She told me I would love it. She was right. I loved it. The story is based on a Polish fairy tale. It has magic. It has an unassuming female protagonist who is thrust into a weird situation and has to adapt quickly. I also read the first two books in Novik's Scholomance. I say Scholomance. My husband thinks it's Scholomance. I don't know. We'll duke it out to the death one day. The books in that series are A Deadly Education and The Last Graduate, which was just released, I think, this month. I know that A Deadly Education in particular received some bad press because of some racially insensitive descriptions that Novik included in the book. She has since apologized and removed those descriptions from future printings. I borrowed the book electronically, and after I read it, I bought my own physical copy, and the offending passage that people were upset about was not in either copy. So feel free to look up that issue for yourself, of course, but personally I felt like the author made sufficient amends. I also saw some book reviewers who felt that there was too much info dumping in A Deadly Education. I'm not going to say that they're wrong, but it was the type of book that needed quite a bit of background info to build the story, and in my opinion, the author dropped that information into the story in a skillful way. I'm a sucker for cool magic systems, and this magic system was really cool. If you decide you want to write a book where people can use energy generated from crocheting to power their magic spells, I'm gonna want to read that book. This book has that. I also really like the main character. She's flawed and stubborn, but it's the kind of flawed and stubborn that I can really get behind. Like I said, I loved all three of these books, but the one that truly irrevocably stole my heart was Spinning Silver. The moment I started reading this book. I just wanted to stop and give it a warm hug and thank it for its service. I picked it up because I liked Uprooted so much. And it just fed my soul. It's set in a fictional medieval Eastern European country called Lithfus, and it follows 3 female protagonists. Miriam, the daughter of a Jewish moneylender, Wanda, a poor village girl with an abusive father, and Irina, a noblewoman who is about to enter into a dangerous arranged marriage. It also has a race of people called the Starik who live in a magical ice realm that can only be accessed when there is snow. They push winter into the mortal world and make winters last longer so that they can raid villages and steal their gold. Miriam, who is very good at money lending and turning a profit, catches the eye of the Stark King when he hears someone boast that she can turn silver into gold. Each of the protagonists are cunning and smart and tough. It's heartfelt and beautifully written. There are elements of found family. I picked this up during that season when I was hating to read, and it just saved me. I don't know. This one may not be everyone's cup of tea, and maybe it's just because of how I was feeling when I picked it up, but this is hands down my favorite book that I've read this year and possibly ever. That is how I now know that I love Naomi Novik. But to be fair, I saw that she has another series. It's supposed to be an alternate history series that involves dragons, and I am reluctant about that one for 2 reasons. One, I rarely start series that have more than 5 books. And I think that one has 9. I just have a hard time committing. I have noped out of so many series that had a strong first 3 books. And when I started book 4, I just felt like the author should have called it. I'm looking at you, mortal instruments. I know who I am, and I'm probably not going to be able to force myself to finish that many books in the same story. And 2, dragons aren't really my thing. I don't hate them. I just can't get excited about them. I don't have a great reason. Just not a dragon person. So while I doubt I ever will, if my love for Naomi Novik ever exceeds my apathy for dragons, I'll give them a try. That's all I got for you today. If you think you might have a good recommendation for me, definitely let me know below. If my brand of awkward appeals to you, please feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. And until next time, read whatever you can get your hands on. Bye!